Jess, you've been on my list to interview on the show since before I launched this podcast. I'm so excited to finally welcome you to What Lights Us Up.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. I feel like, remember last year when I took a yoga class at your studio? Yeah. I've been following you for quite some time on Instagram, and I've been so inspired by your energy, watching you. And I remember going to your class, and at the time I had not started this podcast, and I knew that I wanted to bring you on because you were the epitome of a passion project, just sort of, you know, the energy of just helping others kind of get into their yoga practice. I know you started your journey and practicing yoga, which led you to opening a yoga studio, which has now evolved into a career of wellness coaching and retreats. What was it about yoga that inspired you to dedicate your life to it?
Oh, that list is so big. When I first started practicing the physical practice of yoga, I was only 16, and I was a dancer, and I became very hyper aware at 16 years old that I didn't have a dancer's body, and I almost was feeling like I was dedicating my life to something that probably wouldn't come to fruition for me. Now as an adult, I realize I should have broken that barrier down, but you know, as a kid, it was difficult to do that. And so I left the dance world, and after leaving the dance world, I actually found meditation first. And so I had a teacher in high school lead me through a meditation practice, and I was like, what is going on? I was always like a closeted poetry, philosophy, Eastern philosophy, very particularly nerd. I loved all of that stuff. And so when I went to yoga for the first time, it was instantly hooked. And it was one of those things, I went to a class and my mommy had to sign a waiver for me to be able to go. I was that young. And I found it, and it was the movement that first drew me to it. And I was like, this is so incredible. I can't believe how good this feels on my body. And at 18, I had my first opportunity to teach, and I got up in front of a room full of people, and that was it. I was like, this is all I want to do. But I still took a traditional route. So I still went to college. I still, went into the corporate world. I did all of the things that I was supposed to do, quote unquote. And it wasn't until I was in the corporate world for maybe 5 or 6 years that I realized this was not at all what I wanted. I wanted to help people figure out who they are. I wanted to help people make this life journey more comfortable. I wanted to help people learn about their body, to learn about what they want, what they need. And I realized I couldn't do that in the realm that I was in. And so I, at 27 years old, decided I'm not going to do this anymore. Everyone thought I was crazy, crazy. Everybody. And not that I didn't have support, everyone loved me and supported me no matter what I was doing, but they all thought there's no way you can make this work. And I proved them all wrong pretty quick, but.
That's incredible. And, we went to high school together, yes, for anyone listening.
Yeah.
And I think back to, I feel like I tried to follow my passion. I was into fashion. I went to fashion design, same as you, and then I ended up in the corporate world. And I had no idea that I would start a podcast, make a cookbook, but I literally just a little by little started to learn what it was that lit me up and started to follow that curiosity. And I think back to when I was a teen, and sometimes I wish I had more presence and more awareness to understand people more and get to know people more and connect with people more, because I think that is something that's really lit me up now in my life that we so much miss. And I think it's so easy that you touched on sort of going down that traditional route. A lot of people feel like that's what we should do.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to recognize what it was I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Or what it was I should be doing. That should
for yourself,
for myself,
right.
turns into what do I actually want to do versus
Exactly.
what am I doing for other people? I want to do it for me.
Exactly. And we don't necessarily live, and I think it's changed now a little bit, but we didn't live, you and I didn't live in a culture at the time that supported that, right? And our families didn't come from a culture that supported that. And so it was always, you have to achieve more success than the people that came before you. And the only way our parents could envision us doing that was by going to college, was by getting a corporate job, was by working in that capacity. We really didn't have a lot of wiggle room around what lights you up, what excites you, what makes you happy, what brings you passion. No one had those conversations. When you're in school, people aren't asking you that. They're asking you if you could take standardized testing. They're asking you if you could excel in a classroom, you know, this industrial sort of idea of learning, but nobody gave you the wiggle room to do that. And so one of my biggest passions in life is to give people the wiggle room now. I love especially working with people like in their like late 30s, 40s, 50s, like that midlife time where you're all of a sudden like, wait a freaking minute, like this is not, how did I land here? This is not what I ever wanted. And I think that we all land at some point in middle age, we all land in this place where you take a look around and you think, oh my God, all of this time has gone by and the clock feels like it's ticking, and you want to make sure that the second half of your life is a celebration, is joyous, is experiential, right? Instead of just the clock in and clock out and the day to day.
The mundaneness.
Yes.
And once you experience that ounce of joy, you want more of it.
Yes.
It's sort of like a drug.
It is.
Right? I mean, you started with a passion of yoga, but you built it into, you had a yoga studio that you owned, but now you're a coach, you're a wellness coach, and then you do retreats. How did your journey evolve from, you started at 16 to now, 20 years later?
Sure. So, at 16, even at 18, when I started teaching and I really started studying, I enjoyed, like I said, the physical practice was the first thing that drove me. And then I opened the studio, and that was the first thing that drove my students. That's the first thing that drives most of the people who come into a yoga practice. Where my life has evolved is that I started to really study and really understand the deeper philosophies around what yoga is. Almost no yogas have a physical practice. The yogas are all of the Eastern philosophies that came out of India. So Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, all of these things. And within those philosophies is this like roadmap, this compass that teaches you how to strip away the masks that you wear. It teaches you how to strip away like the costumes that you wear and to come back to like your truest identity. And so when I started teaching other people how to be yoga teachers, I started teaching other people how to be meditation teachers, it was all of those philosophies that what drove me. And what happened often was I would teach, I just taught one a few weeks ago, I taught this whole series on yogic philosophy. So I teach what's called Yoga Darshana and what's called Samkhya Darshana. They're two of the schools of Hinduism, and I teach Buddhism as well. And I was teaching this whole series, and one of the questions people asked me was, well, now what? You just told me all of these philosophies, but how do I apply these philosophies to my daily life, right? This stuff is so ethereal, and sometimes it hurts your brain. And people are, having these conversations within this class, but they're confused. And again, you're kind of like bridging these two cultures and trying to figure all of this out. And that was where the life and wellness coaching came in, was that it became, I wasn't in a studio setting. I wasn't in the role of I'm your yoga teacher or your meditation teacher, but in the role of how can I support you in, my background in all of these philosophies and in psychology? How can I support you with this background and be your kind of just your compass a little bit in the way that you move through me educating you on finding the truest essence of who and what you really are. And then once you find that, what do you do with it? And I support people on that journey. It's the most fun thing in the entire world, because you watch people. I could work with somebody just for an hour, and I work with people for extended periods of time, but you get the opportunity to watch somebody's eyes open up for the first time and realize like, I don't have to do things that way anymore. And it's so much fun. And so that was how I started doing the life and the wellness coaching. And the retreats all started because I wanted to go to Costa Rica for free.
Oh,
literally. I the first time I ever taught a retreat, I had been having a conversation with a friend of mine at breakfast. We were eating breakfast and we were having coffee and we were talking about Costa Rica. And I said, this was 14 years ago. And I said, I want to rent a Jeep Wrangler, which I own one now, but I want to rent a Jeep Wrangler and I want to drive from here all the way to Costa Rica. He's like, are you out of your mind? Like, you're going to get killed on the way. And I was like, all right, well, I at least want to go to Costa Rica. And I had this whole idea in my mind. And I thought, how can I start to travel for free? And it's like, well, I could travel for free if I work. And my work is my favorite thing in the world. So why not blend those two worlds together? And so that was genuinely the reason I offered the first retreat was, how can I take my work, pick it up, and put it geographically in some amazing place in the world? Because travel is one of the biggest light me ups thing that I have in my life. I love it so much. And
a lot of people.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And so travel became like, okay, now how do I do this?
Yeah.
And financially speaking, at the time, it made the most sense for me. So I did it and I sold it out. I had to do one back to back, sold that one out, booked one immediately, like 6 months later, sold that one out. And it snowballed from there. And it just became my beyond favorite thing that I do.
Well, it offers connection with others.
Yes.
And I just came back from Italy. I felt a calling to, just like you felt a calling to go to Costa Rica, I felt a calling to go to Italy and immerse myself in the food culture where my grandfather was born.
Sure.
Where my last name originates from. And it was the most incredible trip that I've ever taken because I lived in this local environment and I had people open up their kitchens, my distant cousins I'd never met before, open their kitchens up to me and cook with me. And
I have goosebumps.
And I thought, what an incredible experience, but also I had videoed the experiences and sharing those videos with other people. They're commenting, oh my gosh, I couldn't wait to watch your videos. You were so, I think the energy I was experiencing really showed in those videos. And similar to you, how can we share that energy that we're feeling with others? And while connecting and offering that connection and creating a community around that.
Yeah.
And I've even thought, what if I organize retreats in Italy much in the same way? What an incredible way to bring business to a local town.
Yeah.
Right? But also an experience to people that would never normally experience that. Going to a major city.
Sure.
You know, experiencing something very small and then learning to cook. And a lot of people would love that.
Yeah.
What do you hope we can take away and share with others with these trips, these retreats?
I think the biggest thing is that, there's so many, but one of the biggest things is, like you said, being in a small village, that is where I prefer to teach. I prefer to teach in places where I don't want to be in a resort, right? I want to be somewhere where people can immerse themselves in local culture. And when we teach yoga, when we teach meditation, mindfulness, all of these practices, the root of everything that we teach is love. You could brush everything else away. Stop. You don't need all the Sanskrit and the Pali and yes, I do believe that you should, as a student of these things, immerse yourself in ancient texts and all of the learning that is required to know this. It's so important. But at the end of the day, you could strip all of that away. And what we're learning is love, we're learning compassion, and we're learning empathy. And one of the greatest ways to learn those things, I believe, is by being a part of the world, by getting out of your own way. And it's one of the original yoga teachers that brought yoga to the West, Krishnamacharya, would say, it's like getting out of your own little well. Right? It's like a frog is living in his well and this frog is living in his well. And if you don't jump into somebody else's well, you don't understand what their world is like. It's hard for you to have empathy for a people, a culture, an organization, whatever it is, if you don't experience it. And it's the same thing when you are sharing space with people that you don't know and coming into that space and being in this loving environment where you're exploring the world, you're on this grand adventure. For some people, it's like the biggest trip they've ever taken in their lives. And you're eating amazing food, and you're seeing amazing culture, and you're moving your body, and you're going inward in meditation, and you're part of the land, right? Which is a huge piece of the puzzle, is just being a part of nature and immersing yourself in that experience. And on the other side of it, you see enormous transformation. I just did a retreat this past year in Belize, and I had one particular student who came into the retreat and very introverted, hyper intelligent, hyper intelligent, and never quite fit in. Her words, not mine. Like, never quite fit in. And she came,
before she came on the trip.
And came onto this trip, and you're throwing 25 people into this journey that are completely different. You have wild party animals. You have people who just want to go like deep into yoga and meditation. You have people who want to hike, and people want to lay on a hammock all day and do nothing. Everyone is so different, and you never know, like, oh, what is going to be the blend of these people?
Do you ask when they arrive, what do they hope to find?
I do.
Okay.
Yes. So we always set intentions, and we always kind of ask all of those things, and it usually is they end up doing something completely different than what they thought they were going to do.
Sure.
And that was her case, was she kind of thought she was going to be this quiet wallflower, and her introverted self, and maybe I'm not going to fit in with these people. And a lot of the people that were there were, completely opposite of this person. She was the star of the show. Everyone was obsessed with spending time with this person. We would fight at dinner who got to sit next to her, because she was so funny. I have goosebumps. She was so funny and so fun and so intelligent, and would go off on these tangents about history and geography and all of these things, and everyone was just drooling over this woman. And she got to the end of the experience, and it was not at all what she had anticipated. And we fell in love with her. She fell in love with everybody. We all fell in love with each other. And by the end of this trip, now you have 25 people who will be your family for the rest of your life. And
that's what I hear.
It's incredible.
From a lot of those retreats.
Yes.
People come home and they're like, I connected with this person. They might be my soul family,
Yes.
my soulmate, my connection, and
Yeah.
I've never, and just in some crazy organic way, you've met them on this retreat. You were drawn to it.
Yeah.
And I do believe that the practice of sitting still and sitting in that stillness allows us opportunity to really recognize how we feel and the joy we want to feel. For a long time, I was very disconnected from my feelings.
Yes.
Because going back to living in that busyness of life, it's very easy to not even feel a connection, or to go into something and say, I think I want to take away this, or I'm going in to do this. And because you've given them that opportunity to sit in that stillness with other people on a retreat away from home, experiencing different things, and really teaching them to be open to learning things from others, from a different culture. That's where I think there's so much to take away from that.
There is.
And I've always said I feel challenged with meditating and sitting in stillness.
Yeah.
How do we meditate? What would you tell people like her that maybe came to this retreat that isn't adopting traditional methods of sitting in stillness or meditating? What would you tell us, coming to those retreats and saying, I really want to take away something different from this, but how do I approach meditation, apply it to my regular life when I come home from this retreat?
Yeah.
And what do you hope we find from that practice?
Yeah, so meditation and mindfulness and all of those things, it's such this gigantically broad term. And typically people who don't do the practice just picture, sitting crisscross applesauce with, your hands in your lap. Yeah. And
right.
just, chanting mantra, or just sitting in stillness. What everyone always says to me is like, I can't clear my mind. And I'm like, I've never once asked you to clear your minds. Never once. If I'm guiding a meditation, I never say, clear your mind.
Right.
That's impossible. We cannot turn this thing off. What we do learn how to do is become friends with it, right? You become friends with the chatter in your mind. You become friends with what we call vrittis, the fluctuations of the mind. And There are so many ways of doing that, and they don't require you to sit and close your eyes and be in meditation, right? One of the easiest ways is to shut your phone off, like as much as you can. Get rid of the damn thing. Put it in a corner somewhere. And I teach people when they're having their coffee in the morning, instead of scrolling on your phone and checking your email and doing all of the things, sit with your feet planted all the way on the floor, sitting up tall with your cup of coffee, and sip it slowly and mindfully, and just be present with the fact that you're drinking a cup of coffee.
Grounding yourself.
Grounding yourself. If you're going on a walk, take your earbuds out for a little while, put your phone away, and just be in the present moment. What colors do you see? What does it feel like to have the ground underneath your feet? What do your clothes feel like on your skin? The reason that we're so disconnected from our own feelings, the reason that we're so disconnected from the way even our bodies feel, is because our mind is bouncing from one thing to the next. We don't learn how to be mindful in the present moment. And if you don't learn to be mindful in the present moment, you don't learn how to regulate your nervous system. You don't learn how to keep your attention focused. And you don't learn how to regulate your own emotions. And the ability to just be present in everything that you're doing allows you to learn how to do all of these incredible things that quell like the anxiety that we have in our daily life, that ease the tension and the stress that just comes with being human. Like, being human is incredibly hard, but we are so distracted. And so we're just learning to focus attention. That's it. And whether that be seated in meditation or doing a physical asana practice in yoga, or drawing, or listening to music, or listening to birdsong outside while you're going for a walk, there's many ways to be mindful. It doesn't mean that you have to have this deep meditation practice. It's what I hope for people, because I know what it does and how it changes your life, but we all can't be there yet. Mm-hmm. It takes time, but we live in a society that wants very immediate. I want to immediately feel better. Meditation's not going to feel good for many people the first time they do it. How do you go from being so zappy, right? Like so filled with stress and energy, and then say, just sit and be quiet? It's very uncomfortable. Our body, our nervous system craves what it already knows. Mm-hmm. And so we got to get it out. And that's where the yoga comes in, the physical yoga practice comes in, is getting all of that out. And then you just learn to be present. That's it. It doesn't have to be so hard. People make it so hard and seem so complicated. I'm not good at meditation. It's not that you're not good at meditation. You just can't focus your attention. That's all. So we learn to breathe and be present first. And then maybe you sit for 5, 10, 15.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be so regulated.
And I was going to say the yoga practice. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my first step.
Yeah.
Into starting everything.
Yeah.
And sort of this evolutionary journey of my self-discovery. And the only way I got into yoga, because I used to be someone that was, no, I cannot sit still. I cannot sit in stillness and be in quiet and do this yoga. And I used to commute 2 hours each way to an office,
Mm-hmm.
and they offered free yoga
Mm-hmm.
twice a week. And so to beat traffic, I said, okay, I'm going to take this yoga class. Loved the instructor, felt a connection with her. It was the same 3 of us coworkers that took the class. And then I started to notice my posture was better.
Mm-hmm.
I started to notice my cellulite and my legs went away. And I'm thinking, this is amazing physical attributes that I'm getting. And I didn't even notice initially that it was actually helping my mindfulness state as well.
Yeah.
And through that practice, I actually learned to adopt it at the beach. And then through COVID, I did it. And I would make sure I did it every Sunday. And as I worked on the cookbook, I would find that my Shavasana was my favorite posture of the day, because I felt a connection of sort of praying to my spirit guides, universe, source, whatever, God to some people, that we ask for help. But it's one of those things I felt to try to ground myself asking at the end of my practice, what do I need help with today? What do I need help with this week? Even if it was once a week, I was doing the practice.
Right.
And so I felt it really helped bring me into that present state and stillness state before I went out and just started my week.
And that was how Hatha yoga, which is what most of the people in the US practice, is some modern form of Hatha yoga. And Hatha yoga was developed, much later than the philosophies were. So, maybe 1,500, 1,300 years ago. And I mean, that was a long time ago, obviously. And it looked very different than what we do now. What we do now it's this century, what we do now. Right. So the physical practice that we do now is not some like ancient connection to divinity, right? It's Swedish gymnastics, literally. So it's very different than what was done then. But the whole point of creating a physical practice was the Hatha yogis looked at meditation. They looked at the discovery of who you are. And it started, and there's so many yogas, so I'm not saying it started here, but with the Yoga Darshana, the yoga of Patanjali, the 8-limbed path, the Yoga Sutras, is what a lot of people know. And it all started with just being a good person and learning to be good to yourself. So that was the first 2 steps in the philosophies of yoga. So like, how do I interact with the world? How do I interact with myself? And the Hatha yogis were like, how do you figure out how to be a good person, how to interact with yourself, how to breathe, and how to sit for meditation until you get all your stuff out? Like until you could move your physical body and get out the energy that you don't need, and how do you cleanse the body? And that was why that Hatha yoga practice, the physical practice, was developed. Was 1, I need to like move the energy in my body to be able to sit. And 2, I need to cleanse my body, because you can only find a clean mind if you have a clean body. That was their philosophy. I don't believe that's true for everyone. And now with these modern practices, like you said, we meet ourselves where we are culturally and personally. And so culturally, most people go in because of cellulite or burning a calorie, or you know what I mean, like, or twisting their body up into some weird shape, which is completely unnecessary. And you don't have to be physical to go to yoga. You don't have to be flexible, none of those things. But that's what draws most people, is how do I get stronger? How do I get more flexible? How to get more toned?
Right.
All of those things is that our initial draw. And for a while, I started to be jaded around that stuff because it would frustrate me as a philosophy teacher. I was like, who cares about that stuff? Like, you're not your body. We're trying to transcend the body. But I do recognize as I mature that you have to meet people where they are. And for the most part, meeting people where they are is going to start on a cultural level. And culturally, it's the movement. Culturally, it's the strength and the flexibility and all of those things. And then eventually you can go deeper.
And it's a bridge, I think, for
Yes.
people that are coming from that super busy, non-mindfulness to a place of presence and mindfulness. It's definitely a bridge.
It is.
For a lot of people.
It is.
I think.
It is. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think it helps us experience joy. It helps us understand how to experience, coming from someone that was so detached from my feelings.
Sure.
I didn't know what it was like to feel in my body what joy felt like.
Right. Or sorrow.
Or anything.
Right. It's all of the things, right? Because it's giving you the opportunity to sit with yourself and be with yourself long enough to say, I have feelings and I'm going to experience those. And we teach through meditation, we don't want you to be so attached to the feeling, but to recognize it, to recognize the sensation of joy, to recognize the sensation of sorrow, and then learn to be somewhere in the middle. Like, what does that middle place feel like? What is the sensation when you're in the middle? Because in the middle is like kind of the good part.
The good
That's
part.
the ease.
Yeah.
Right? That's all we want.
And the flow.
Yeah, it's everybody is just searching for peace, searching for ease in their lives. But again, like I said, your nervous system is attracted to what you are most comfortable with. And if you lived a life of chaos, that's always going to be the first place you go is chaos. Most people who live in chaos can relate to this. And when I say chaos, I don't mean disrupted, right? Chaos can look comfortable. It could look good. It could look successful. It has a lot of positive tones to it. But it's the feeling, we know we live in chaos when we are someone who's completely overwhelmed and add more to our plates on purpose and don't even realize it, right? We don't even know that we're doing it. And then in the process of all of this mindfulness and all the meditation and all of the yoga and all of these practices, that is when you learn to stop and say, I'm adding more to my plate because I feel chaotic and my system is attracted to more chaos. What would happen if instead I just laid down and closed my eyes for an hour and listened to a beautiful piece of music? How would that change my life? How would that change this experience? Instead of creating more, instead of creating more stress, more discomfort, and then starting to be snappy with the people around me and treating myself poorly and shifting relationships because of that. And those practices, that is how you take it off the mat. Learning those practices. That in the moment, we teach that you become a person who can act rather than react, right? Because we're reactors. We feel a feeling and we react to it. Action means I stop, I pause, I recognize, and then I move forward. And that's what all of these practices are teaching you. To be in it, to feel it, the sensation, the awareness, and then what?
Yes.
In a mindful way.
Yes. And part of that recognition is also understanding, okay, I can feel a feeling, but it's also leading me to an intuition.
Yes.
And I believe in this past year, I have learned to recognize, because I was attached to my feelings, because this didn't happen overnight. I mean, I adopted yoga, we're talking about 7 years ago.
Sure.
So this was a huge evolution of teaching myself how to slow down. Now, COVID helped a little bit, and creating a cookbook and creating something, a passion project that brought me joy, helped open me up to understanding, oh, I want more of this.
Right.
I want to follow up more of this. And this past year, I do believe it happened for a reason, to prepare me for a big change, recognizing my feelings and saying, okay, this doesn't sit right, or this does sit right. And then following those little, what we call pings or callings, where we get a feeling, just like you said, when you listened to me talk about my Italy trip, you got sort of like a feeling in your body and chills. When you have a conversation with someone, you get chills. When you walk into a room and you say, really, I like their energy. Their energy is really great. You can have a feeling, and that could help lead you to take one step forward towards something that could change your whole life, and that could lead you down a path to purpose, I believe.
Sure.
How do you feel yoga, the practice of wellness, helps us in helping to read our intuition?
Sure.
And manifesting our life?
Yeah, so one of the things, I created this journaling experience just recently called Whispers of Wisdom, and I created it because of exactly what you just said, because people are, especially, again, I'll go back to midlife, but people are wanting so badly to connect with what and who they really are and what and who they really want to be, but they just don't know how. And so one of the things that I try so hard to teach people is, again, to strip away those masks, right? And we create these layers of identity throughout our lives. So we are, student, sister, brother, mother, father, cousin, coworker, employee, everything. I'm teacher, I'm philosopher, all of those things. We create all of these identities around what and who we really are. And what I'm teaching you to do is to strip all of that away and use what you have, what you were born with, what you've been as long as you've been stardust. And that is this place of just love and light. And I know that could sound wishy-washy for some people. I'm not a woo-woo person, so I don't talk I love manifestation, I love talking intuition and authenticity, but I'm not a big woo-woo person, and people would think that I was because of, this is what I do for a living. But I'm more like, do the books say that? Like, did the ancient sages say that? They didn't? Okay, no, that doesn't exist. But all of this stuff they did say, and it resonates so deeply with me. And I realize working with more and more and more people over the years that all of these identities that they create also become the roadblocks to them doing whatever it is that they want to do. And so it becomes layers of excuses as well. And I know that that word is painful for people to hear sometimes. For me to say to you, like, I know that you're making an excuse. And I don't mean it to have like a negative context to it. I like using the word like roadblock or something a little bit, more than the word excuse, because that feels like you're doing something wrong. You're not. But it is in the recognition of, well, I never did that thing because I have kids. I never did that thing because it's too expensive. I never did that thing because everybody's going to think I'm crazy, right? And what I'm teaching people to do is to recognize that everything is accessible for you. Everything is attainable. It doesn't matter how many masks you wear, you can do it. And it's just a matter of finding that middle path that I was talking about earlier. One of the things that I have people doing in this journaling experience is, and one part of it, when we get to like the heart of your authenticity and your intuition, is I ask all of these journaling questions, and I have people do it in 3 ways. The first way is, what if you had no constraints? Nothing. You have no family, you have no children, you have endless wealth. You could do whatever you want, anything that you want to do. How would you answer these questions? And then I ask, how do you answer the questions now, recognizing that you have all the things, right? You have all these things in your way. Answer the questions again. Now answer them a third way. Can you bridge that somewhere in the middle? Can you find a place somewhere in the middle that says, yes, I have all of this responsibility, but I also can follow my passion. I also can follow my dreams. There is a way to do it. And there's a way to do it that is mindful and respectful to the other people in your life. But life is a blink. It is a blink of an eye. And when we get to the end of life, right? When we're at that very last chapter of our lives, and hopefully, best case scenario, we are alert and able to contemplate what just happened over the last however many years. When you get to that point, no one wants to leave this particular experience and say, I didn't do it. I didn't do the things that I wanted. I didn't do the things that I needed. It is a beautiful thing to be selfless. I think that there's so much room for that, but we have one shot in this particular body. We have one shot in this particular lifetime, and allowing you to strip away all of the things that aren't real. None of this is real. It's not real. All the things you have, they could be gone in 1 second. They're gone. Everything is fleeting. This moment, gone. Everything. All of the...
We're never going to get it back.
You'll never get it back. Yeah. And your physical, all of the physical things that you've acquired could be gone in a second. Money, gone in a second. Relationships, gone in a second. People, gone in a second. And it's painful for people to hear that, but it's the truth. And so you come to a point in your life where you say, I can no longer ignore the tingle. I can no longer ignore the goosebumps and the butterflies. I can't ignore those things anymore, because there is something telling me to move forward. There's something telling me to shift. And when you tell your brain and your body that you're ready to make that shift, the doors just open. It's unbelievable. And you watch it, I watch it happen, and I'm sure you've seen it happen, and you talk to all of these people. It happens all the time. And so me, the person who's not woo-woo, might sound like I am, but I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from the fact that I just sold an incredibly successful business that I had for 15 years just because I wanted to. Just because I didn't want to do it anymore. I left the corporate world just because that's what I wanted.
Right.
Right? I made these huge shifts and changes, not with money in mind necessarily. Luckily, I've been successful enough to be able to do that, but it wasn't a financial thing. It wasn't a like a prestigious thing, you know. I also wasn't attached to that mask. I'm no longer the owner of the Om Center. I took the mask off and put it down and walked away. I never thought it, like everyone asks me all the time, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Oh, that must be so hard to like still watch. And I still teach yoga there. And people will say to me, is it uncomfortable? I'm like, no, I don't even think about it. It's not even a thought in my mind because I was ready for the next chapter.
That's what opened you up
Yeah.
and set you up for this.
It did. And the universe just told me it was time.
Right.
It was time. I didn't have the same joy in it. I wasn't having the same experience that I was before.
Right.
So it was time to do something new.
Right. Exactly.
And you do it.
Yep. Exactly.
You do it. Yeah, I had someone tell me once, I had my tarot cards read. I just said I'm not woo-woo and I'm talking about tarot cards. It's so funny. But I love it. I don't know anything about that world at all. Actually, it wasn't tarot cards. I'm sorry. It was astrology.
Okay.
And I know nothing about it. You know, I'll say like, oh, I'm a Cancer and a, you know, Sagittarius rising. I don't even know what that means. And I say it anyway. But she had told me that my energy was that I kick people off a cliff, but I don't teach them how to fly. So she's like, you are one of those people that just wants everyone to go run, just do all the things, but you don't teach them how to fly. And that resonated with me so deeply because I thought to myself, I am that person, right? I expect people to do it. Like I want everyone to just do it so bad. And that changed my whole life. And this was like 10 years ago, but it changed my whole life because I thought to myself, I have to teach people how to fly. I have to help them fly. I don't actually teach anybody how to fly. I teach them some things that help them perhaps fly a little bit more strongly, but they teach themselves how to fly. But it was in that experience that I thought, all right, I gotta stop just kicking people off the cliff. And that's a lot of how my work shifted and changed to be a little bit more nurturing
wow.
in the process. Yeah.
But it was a meant to be experience.
Mm-hmm. It was. Yeah.
How do you feel with all of that being said? Obviously, yoga is a great practice, the wellness, coaching, getting a coach, I think is a great practice. Journaling is a great practice. How do you think we can live our best life?
Yeah. I'm going to say the number one thing I will tell anybody about living your best life is go outside. Go outside. Put your phone down. Touch the earth. Be in nature. Go into the woods. Go to the beach, just walk around your block, sit on your front steps, whatever it looks like, but go outside. We are so disconnected from the natural world. And that is one of the reasons we're so disconnected from our feelings. We're so disconnected from our bodies. We can't even feel what our bodies are telling us on a day-to-day. You need to sleep. You need to drink water. People buy watches to tell them to drink water. And so my biggest thing is get yourself outside, reconnect with the earth, reconnect with your body. And you'll hear me say constantly to put your phone down. And it is so easier said than done. I'm not the only person who's going around barking that at people, right? Like, put your phone down. And I don't mean you have to do that all day, every day, but have some dedicated time. Dedicated time to be quiet, to be present with yourself, and to breathe some fresh air. And all of the other things will fall into place because that is what creates the space for you to connect back with yourself, for you to be with yourself. And yes, I created a book that's about journaling. And is journaling amazing? Yes. And would I love to be your life and wellness coach and teach you how to do all of these things? Please call me. Of course I want to do that. And do I think you should go to yoga? I would never should you, but do I think yoga is very beneficial? Yes. Do I think mindfulness and meditation? Yes. But is it as simple as going outside and breathing fresh air? Yeah. Yeah. All of those other things are amazing. But the very simplest tool is to go outside and be in nature and be quiet with no screen. And what that can do for you, what that can do for the next generation, if you teach it to them, is mind-blowing. And if you do it every day for a month, like I tell people, go outside every day, 5 to 10 minutes. I don't care how cold it is or how hot it is. 5-10 minutes outside every day for 1 month, and tell me what happens at the end. And there's no way somebody's going to tell me their life isn't different.
I love that.
Yeah,
and
it's free.
I know, it is free.
It's free.
And you start to really learn presence. You start to hear the little birds chirping and the noise and the lawnmowers and the smells.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the different shades of, like, I love when I'm teaching meditation outside in the spring or the summer, and we're in New England now, and I say, look at all the different shades of green. Like, just look at the earth right now. How many shades of green are there? And you see people's eyes just light up like, I never noticed that there's a million shades of the color green in front of me. And that recognition, it actually changes your brain. It changes the chemistry of your minds. And that's a whole nother topic that we'll do another day. But
no, it's awareness, I swear. When I went to Iceland and it was like the colors I saw, it was incredible. You couldn't even capture it in a camera.
No, you couldn't. And we know now you could put people in MRI machines and actually see what it does to the physical brain. It changes everything. So I love teaching philosophy, but I love teaching science too. And when you can bridge all of these worlds together, it makes people's eyes get really big. But it's also a complicated place for people to start because it's not where they are in their lives. So the easiest thing to do is to ask lots of questions and go outside and be quiet.
Start with what you have.
Start with what you have.
Yeah.
And add a little bit more.
Yep.
And stop worrying so much about taking it all away.
Yep, absolutely.
Just what can you add? What can you add that gives you joy?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
This was an incredible conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I can't wait to see what else you're up to. Can you tell us how we can follow you, find you, book your retreat?
Sure. So I am the co-director of Direct Path Institute. So you can find us online at Your Direct Path. So it's yourdirectpath.com, and all of our Instagram, Facebook, all the handles are Your Direct Path.
I'll link them in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. And then you can find me personally at Jessica Proulx Wellness. My last name, I'm sure you'll link because you will not figure out how to spell that if you've never seen it before. And you can find my new book, Whispers of Wisdom, on Amazon.
Great.
And it's some wisdom readings and a lot of journaling and just an experience of you reconnecting with what and who you are and finding that authenticity and diving into your intuition.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.